Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today on the show. Donald Trump has offered temporary protections for Dreamers in exchange for wall funding. Trump takes aim at Pelosi as she immediately rejected that pretty bad deal. We'll take a look at the BuzzFeed news story that hit the fan, on the Thursday and Friday about Trump and Michael Cohen and lying to Congress. Rudy Giuliani saying on CNN that it's possible that Trump talked to Cohen ahead of the congressional testimony after that BuzzFeed story looked like it had been discredited by the Office of the Special Counsel. Giuliani, the expert lawyer, out bringing life into it again. Mitch McConnell admitting voting rights are bad for Republicans, and a viral video about a white student taunting a Vietnam Native American elder and Vietnam vet at a abortion rally / Indigenous Peoples rally in Washington, D.C. that we'll get the reaction of our guest today on that. So joining us is our guest today, Glenn Bradford. Thank you so much for coming back on today, Glenn. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's good to be back, Spencer.
All right. So we're starting off today, though, with the shutdown now entering its 29th day. We're actually 29 days, 12 hours, and however many minutes. I think I don't know. So into the shutdown. So he's facing really a growing public backlash, President Trump is, after this thing, because it's largely been viewed as something that he is causing. He shifted course Saturday and offered the Democrats a deal. Temporary protections for roughly 700,000 young undocumented immigrants in exchange for $5.7 billion in funding for a wall on the southern border. So what was your reaction to that deal when it was first announced this past Saturday? Yesterday.
Well, it was hard to have my own reaction because I was immediately colored by the Democrats' reaction. And apparently what they don't like about it is that, number one, it seems to roll back the very things that President Trump canceled regarding DACA and TPS. So it would just put us back at like ground zero again, and then he would get a wall.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing that bothered Democrats was just the fact that he was negotiating some deal while the government was shut down. That just strikes them as being, patently wrong. You need to get the government back up and running, and then we can negotiate. So I think that I agree with the Democrats when they couch the compromise in those terms, and I agree that they shouldn't go along with it. Of course, the president could make the DACA deal better. He could provide a path to citizenship, and then I think things would be different. And maybe then we could excuse his dealing during a shutdown. But I doubt very much that the president's going to go that far.
Yeah, it's really hard to get behind $5.7 billion for a wall that Democrats are incredibly opposed to versus temporary protection. Just like, not even, as you said, not really even bringing us back to where we were before, but only bringing us back to where we were before for 3 years. And who knows where we could be in 3 years in a situation like that. It doesn't really get anything done. And I think it really is also very interesting, a testament to the kind of right-wing negotiating style of saying, just moving things so quickly to the right, that when you make a deal, when you offer something up, that seems like you're giving something up, you're really just bringing us back to where we were before. That just shows you really how far the right wing has gone on this. And I think that could really actually end up being very destructive and damaging to the country. A right wing who's just completely in control. And we're really feeling the impact through the shutdown. It's really hurting America more than any kind of illegal immigration I think ever could. A more direct, serious impact and manner.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I just worry that this president doesn't really have any emotional feelings as far as the people that he's hurting with this shutdown. And because of that, I think that he could let it drag on for pretty long. The only thing that I think might stop him is political fallout from it. And so far, we've seen a little bit of erosion into his base and into Republicans in general, but not nearly enough, I think, that would make him, give up.
Yeah, it's definitely when you still have someone like an Ann Coulter type person out there saying that it'll be like an open revolt if Trump does not give up or make sure there's a full funding for the wall. I mean, it's really hard to see any sort of compromise on the situation. And you do get the sense, though, someone like Mitch McConnell and Republicans, they actually do want to kind of get this thing over with because it's just, again, it's bad for business. And they just don't really care that much about a wall. Like they have other more different bad policies to pursue. You get the sense, and this is kind of just bogging them down. But again, to my mind, it doesn't really matter if they oppose it because they're not doing anything about it. They're not doing anything to change. Mitch McConnell still won't bring any kind of compromise bill passed by the Democrats in the House up to the floor of the Senate for any kind of a vote. Where, I mean, there's chances that we might have something to work with, even with a pretty Republican Senate. But what do you think the significance is of McConnell opposing this? Like, or if he really even does oppose the efforts for the wall? Do you think it's something really significant if, like, these Republicans are balking at the way Trump's handling this?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I know that McConnell was very happy to bring that original floor vote up when he thought the president would vote for it. And so I don't think that he's not like an Ann Coulter type. He doesn't have ideological issues with the wall like Coulter does and maybe Trump does too. It's just that he's not willing to put a bill up that the president won't vote for. It's as simple as that. And I don't know if enough Republican senators applying pressure on McConnell will move him at all. It's very difficult to say. I think that at some point he might have to start entering the quote-unquote negotiations a little more. He's been pretty much keeping himself on the sideline. But at some point he might have to go to the White House and start putting some political pressure on Trump to end this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say that there is going to be any kind of major developments because we just haven't seen any impetus for any kind of arising from this, from the negotiations and the events of this past few weeks. So just pretty much to give you the speed of what happened yesterday. So the proposal was, which Trump unveiled in a 13-minute address from the White House, appeared pretty much dead on arrival in the Capitol. Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected it even before Trump spoke until I think sources revealed what the plan was, and then Pelosi rejected it. Senator Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader, denounced the offer as not a compromise but more hostage-taking. I think he's got a good point there. Like, finally, we're seeing some sort of resistance from Democratic leaders to this, because this is what they've been trying to do for the past, 5 years or so, ever since, really, the era of the Tea Party. They've just done increasingly more right-wing proposals, forcing the Democrats to just being dragged to the right, and that's something that I think really the Democrats, even the most kind of centrist ones, are going to have a tough time to tolerate. The shutdown now entering its fifth week, and polls showing a majority of the people blaming President Trump, the president's advisors, have been searching again for an exit strategy. Saturday's speech grew out of talks, apparently, that Vice President Mike Pence and the president's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner have had in recent days with lawmakers, including Senator Mitch McConnell, Majority Leader. And I think it's very interesting that there's been no discussion with the Democrats on this. And I mean, do you think that how do you think the Democrats should approach negotiations if McConnell just kind of walked up to them, or Trump or anyone from the Republican side walked up to them and say, like, let's make a deal, we want to get out of this? Like, what do you think would be how do you think Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer should respond?
Well, I mean, they have to stay open-minded. They have to listen. But I don't know that they have to propose anything themselves. I think the ball is really, and the pressure really is in the Republicans' court, particularly the president. And And so there, I mean, the fact that he even came up with a compromise yesterday shows that he's feeling the heat. And I think if the Democrats just stay strong with this line about we can negotiate after the government is reopened, I think that's going to keep the pressure on the president, and that's probably the best way to go. It's just a matter of how much longer Trump can keep the government partially shut down and not have some kind of political blowback from his party.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a very smart approach to take because that's going to really unite make the Democrats appear like they're on the side of like the working people, as well as kind of making sure that Trump is, that Trump is the one who's facing pressure. So that I think that could be very effective. He was just kind of more like you have to do something for the workers, you have to do something for the people out of work, the people who need like government food stamps, the people who need to go traveling, and there's so many different people affected by this shutdown. I think the number one Democratic priority should definitely be to end it, which I think that actually does. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense there. But yeah, so that's a very interesting spot. I didn't think of that way. Like I was thinking more along the lines of like immigration, but the proposal was Trump's first public offer, the significance of it, to Democrats since the partial shutdown began nearly a month ago. It came after a lot of tit-for-tat going on, as Pelosi said the president couldn't deliver the State of the Union address until the Capitol until the shutdown was over, and the president retaliated by grounding a plane that was supposed to take Pelosi on a fact-finding mission to Afghanistan. So, yeah, what do you think that? What do you make of that kind of back and forth there? I didn't really think it was anything of that much significance, but I did think it was interesting, at least I'll say, that Pelosi decided to play a little bit hardball and say, Trump, you can't have the State of the Union while the shutdown's still going on.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too, and I was a bit surprised by it.
Yeah, me too.
As I think you are. But she's exerting her power. I mean, the Democrats have been out of power for the first 2 years, and now since the election, they've been given a mandate to push back on the president, and I think she came up with a good excuse to kind of shut him down and give him a bully pulpit during the State of the Union address. As everyone knows, the president is not nearly as effective when he's by himself in front of a camera as he is in front of an audience. And so I think it was a pretty good strategic move. And it shows she has some guts. And I'm not at all surprised that Trump responded almost in kind the very next day.
Yeah.
Shutting down Pelosi's trip. And, you kind of have to laugh at it a little bit. I mean, neither of them were huge deals. I mean, it was petty, but you could probably say that both sides were acting that way.
Yeah, and I think I do say both of them were pretty petty, and I mean I wouldn't say that deal like that trip thing that Trump trip that shut down. Trump shutdown was a very big deal because she was still probably going to do it in a fly commercial anyway. But I do think it was very interesting that she chose to do the State of the Union. I think that kind of, I mean, whether or not it does happen, I think it does show that I think you could make the case that Nancy Pelosi is saying to Trump, and I think rightfully so, that he doesn't really deserve to have a platform while the government's still shut down, and most of Americans blame him for it. He's not come to the table, and he shouldn't have a platform to talk about his immigration rhetoric and other things that no one really wants to hear while the government shut down, and no one really thinks Trump deserves to say. Like doing the State of the Union, it's a privilege. And it's something that if Nancy Pelosi could take away, which by the way, I didn't really before this, I didn't really know that she could say, Trump, you're not invited to the House of the State of the Union, but I do like the, again, as I said before, I really like the